Hi folks. To keep things nice and short, this is an Evo 10 steering wheel in a VR4. In the later part of this video, I'm going to go into the excruciating and maybe boring detail about how to do it. But I want to keep this simple, like I said. So to start with, if you'd like one of these in your car and you don't care about the buttons, it's a straight drop-in. The airbag will work, the horn will work. Just drop it in, good to go. Nothing else required. But if you would like these buttons to work with your, new head unit or with a aftermarket cruise control, which I've got interfaced with that little Arduino system over there, which I'm going to cover in a separate video. But if you'd like the buttons to work, you'll need a few more things, and you'll need to watch the rest of the video. The first thing you'll need is, aside from the wheel, you will need the clock spring from an Evo 10. This is a VR4 clock spring. This is what a clock spring looks like. The reason you'll need an Evo 10 one is the number of wires that go from the car side to the steering wheel side of the clock spring on the VR4 is not enough. You need a bunch more wires between the car and the steering wheel. That's why you need the Evo 10 one. And you will also need to make some slight modifications to the Evo 10 clock spring so it actually has little plastic lugs in this pattern here rather than the pattern used on the Evo 10 one. So now that I've said that, if you want to stick around for the detail, let's go. Right, well, I've got the wheel off. Not a hard job. And what's interesting is this is the Legnum clock spring. A couple of things to note about it. These are the lugs. Now let's see if this is going to flicker. I'll just try and dim that a bit. Hold on. Let's see if that'll adjust. See those plastic white things in there? So when I turn the wheel, let's see if I can get this. See it in turning? There's a torch in my mouth. So those white lugs are the AYC. Those white lugs are the steering sensor, and the black parts in there are the clock spring lugs that turn that. Now, what's interesting about this is I had a spare clock spring from something, and it has those lugs. See? Well, clock spring's off, just hanging here. What looks to be the difference between that clock spring and my clock spring and the one I've got is more wires here. So what you can see is I've only got 3 wires on mine. This one's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a very similar layout. Very similar. So let's have a look at this ring for AYC. This is the sensor, obviously, and obviously it shines a light through these holes in the ring. And you can see where center is. It's this little slot there. All right, I've got the Evo 10 wheel mounted. What's interesting is the guidance I was given about AYC steering angle being the problem are incorrect. That is not the issue. Because I've just put this on and I've noticed that when you have on the back of the wheel has 3 lugs on the back of it, right? Now they actually directly engage already with these, and these are the AYC drive lugs. What you need to do is get the lugs from the other clock spring, because the lugs in here drive the clock spring, right? So you could put this wheel on today, right? If you wanted to go racing, if you wanted to go racing and you didn't care about airbags or horns or radio control, and all you wanted was AYC detection, this is it. No clock spring mods, no nothing. Just bang this on and away you go. You're done. Because this steering wheel is already driving the AYC sensor. And I don't know if I can actually get a video of that. Let's have a look. Where am I looking? I can't really see too much. Oh, there you go. So have a look down here, right? This is the AYC stuff. See it turning? So this wheel is driving the AYC steering angle sensor. This wheel needs the newer clock spring, which is here. All right? And those lugs, it's more to the point, these white plastic lugs won't drive this clock spring. All right, so initially I thought that the Evo X clock spring wouldn't fit because it just sort of stood off, and I thought it was because of this lump at the bottom, but I had a look, and that's pretty much in the same alignment with the lump on the bottom for the connector for the VR4 one. The issue will be a lack of stock screw positions, which I'll have to hack my way around, but it does appear to fit. It doesn't obviously engage with those lugs, which I have to work on by basically cutting the middle out of this and then sleeving it inside this one, which I'll work on on the bench. But I get it. So there's at least, it looks like there's at least 2 screw holes that might or should line up, but that's going to be enough to hold it. I apologize if I'm off axis and everything here. I'm not looking at the screen. But it looks like it will fit. It looks like I can shim it. And it looks like I just have to, what I have to do is go into the VR4 wiring harness, take this wire going back into the car, and what I need to do is follow this wiring layout. So let me explain what I mean. Where's my clock spring? I don't have it. I don't have my thing. I need to zoom out. My apologies. Where's my little doodad? This guy. So what I've actually done here is I've made a cable up using Deutsch connectors and some expandable braid. And what this does is it plugs into the back of the Evo X clock spring. And it's going to interface with the VR4 wiring harness via this connector. So let's talk about making sure that all the work here is reversible. What I need to do is take this wiring harness, follow it back into the car, cut it, and then put a Deutsch connector between it and the clock spring that's laid out in the same manner as this one I've made for the Evo X one. So what'll happen is in the car, there will be, on the other side of that connector, there'll be the stock wires. There'll be the 2 wires for the stereo, and there will be another 2 wires going to cruise control microcontroller, which I haven't even started building yet, and I'll do later. But what that will mean is that there'll be a plug in the car, this side of the car, not this side of it, but that has all the necessary wires that would work for an Evo X clock spring going to this connector, and a VR4 clock spring going to this connector, right? So basically, if you wanted to go back to a VR4 style steering wheel, you could just unplug the Evo X interface with this connector on the end of it, and there'll be another one actually for the airbag. I'll have to probably cut these lugs off the Evo 10 clock spring and get that all working. And the benefit of doing that is I will validate that everything's going to line up, work, and bolt in before I touch anything in the car. Because the last thing I want to do is start fucking with the car's wiring harness when the job won't succeed. So that's the next thing for me to do. Well, that's a little messy, but this is my nice unmolested Evo X clock spring. And here's my hacked to bits something clock spring from something. Bits here, and this is what the inside looks like. A nice big loop of like clock wound spring. That's why it's called a clock spring. So I don't need this bit at all. I can go. I only need this bit. And more to the point, what I need from that is just this part here. So I need to basically grind all these bits off, do a clean cut around here, getting it out of the base, and then see how much of it I need to remove to shim it inside that one. Rightio. Well, that was an interesting couple of hours dicking with this thing, but I got it working. It just needs to be glued into place. So essentially, this is the Evo X clock spring. I had to drill a small hole in it here. I managed to use the existing mounting hole there, but had to tap out a another little hole there in the plastic to get this screw to mount. You know, very, very careful, making sure I don't hit anything, any wiring or anything. But basically, now you see it's sliding a little because this ring is not glued in yet. But basically, the ring I had does fit. So I'll see if I can get it out for you. I might need to actually remove the whole clock spring and show you. But essentially, it's just the inner part here from a VR4 clock spring I've just cut out, like literally this bottom lip bit. And then just tweaked it, cut it, made sure I can shrink it a little so it fits inside the existing Evo X clock spring ring, and it's all good. So again, the steering wheel drives these 3 pins, and these appear to be standardized. It's got nothing to do with Evo, VR4, etc. Any steering wheel, it seems, I've got with me. I've got the Nardi Torino, the Evo 6 Momo, I've got the Evo 10. They all have 3 lugs on the back, right here, those 3, that engage these and will drive the AYC. So this has nothing to do with AYC. Again, it's all about making sure the clock spring spins with the steering wheel. So basically the steering wheel turns these lugs here. These white lugs move the black lugs, and the black lugs turn the clock spring, and the clock spring needs to go round with the wheel. It's as simple as that. And it looks like we've got it. So all I have to do now is make sure that the 0 position on the steering sensor here for this lug is all lined up. Take everything off, remount this clock spring on it, align the black lugs very carefully, remove it, and then glue those into place. And then we'll be done. And this part of it, the before modifying the car part of the work, will be complete, and I can then focus on tracing this wire of the old factory clock spring back into the harness, and then splicing that wire into a Deutsch connector set up so that everything's reversible. Okay, so I've got the Evo clock spring glued now. So what I've actually got is it's a Magna style clock spring. So the Magna and VR4 clock springs, Mitsubishi Magna, Diamante, whatever, appear to be identical in that the only difference in the clock spring is there's more wires in them. So on the VR4 you only got the 3, but you see it's like a 6-pin. On the Magna one, which actually I think came from a Verada, it had more pins, and I'm assuming they're for like the radio control buttons on a Verada. So this is VR4, the one I hacked up's from a Verada, but the lug layout's the same. And I'm going to leave that there to dry. I don't want to touch it because that's actually epoxy that's drying. So I think what I said earlier was I basically pulled apart the other clock spring completely, chucked all the gubbins out of it. There's just bits and pieces of clock spring everywhere here. And just cut that part out of it here. You can see there's like a lip. See the lip in there? I just cut it all apart, got that out, and just glued it in here. It'll be fine. Well, let's do some wiring tracing, and if you ignore all the rubbish, which is what's under my dash, which is cruise control units and a whole bunch of shit, this is the wire coming from... Now, my eyes can't focus very close to the screen, so I've got to move back, but yeah, there's a little clip we can bend down to get that wire out. It's the yellow and a black one, which is obviously the horn, because the horn is basically just grounded out. So once you ground the horn out, it triggers it. So so that'll be the horn wire. These will be the wires for the airbag. We just have to get these out of there and run all the way back. As you can see, they go up in here, these two, down through this little cable channel, which has been zip tied. So I've got to get all them out to a point where I believe they can and should be connected to a Deutsch connector. Now, we also talked about making this job reversible, and so while this job's not complete yet, let me explain what I'm actually in the middle of doing. So if you look carefully sort of up in here, these plugs, I need to get my finger on them. These plugs here are the vehicle wiring harness, airbag and horn connector for the VR4. What I've done is, and they just basically were on the end of this clock spring. So I've cut that wire and I've put some Deutsch connectors in. These are probably too big, but overkill, whatever. So important steps. Number one, make sure your airbag wires are on a separate connector. Don't put them on the same one as your other wires, because if you made a mistake and one of those wires has 12 volts going to it, like a horn wire or something, and you plug it in, boom goes your airbag. So always have your airbag on a separate connector. Note that this clock spring has a feed for 2 airbags, because that's what's in the Evo airbag module. I'm only using one with the yellow wires, well, the primary. Where's my airbag module? Here it is. You'll note it here. The airbag module has yellow and red. Yellow is the primary, red's the secondary, which the Evo 10 SRS airbag module will decide when to initiate the secondary, but we're only going to use the primary. But what I've done is I've cut, like I said, cut those wires. I kept the original connectors in the harness back here, right where my finger is wiggling, and then I connected those to Deutsch connectors that go into the Evo clock spring. Now all I have to do to make this reversible is add the same Deutsch connectors, right, onto the old VR4 clock spring, and that way, as long as the wires are all correct, of course, should I wish to remove the Evo 10 steering wheel, or if I'm forced to remove the Evo 10 steering wheel for some kind of legislative reason, I can quickly put the Momo or Nardi Torino wheel back in the car using just a connector. So there's no wiring, splicing, or any other mods. Just plug it in, replace, put the VR4 clock spring back in, put in the VR4 factory issued wheel, and away you go. So yeah, I think it's important to make these kind of jobs reversible. You may disagree. Your country may have absolutely no legislation on that matter. I don't really know what mine is, but better to be safe than sorry. All right, moment of truth. I'm recording this. I've got earplugs in, airbags connected, all the wiring's in. I've retraced the wiring, airbags connected to the car, Deutsch connector to the back of the clock spring, to the front of the wheel. Other wires are in, the other wires are separate. Now, my car alarm, I think I've disabled it, but I'm not sure. We'll find out. So we'll start with earth wire. Ooh. Okay, earth wire's on. If I'm just going to listen for the alarm. If the alarm goes off, no. Okay, we're good. So no noises, no alarm. I heard the UT comp boot up, which is normal because it's got permanent power for its clock circuit. Right, this is either going to be good or it's going to go bang. All right, and 2. Looking for the airbag light. Airbag light went out. Yes! Ha ha! All right, test the horn. Now, my radio has lost all its settings. Yeah, that's fine. Rear view camera, front. That looks fine. Yep. Parking guidelines. Yep. Finish. Agree. Looks like everything's still here. So let's go to radio. Yeah, baby. So let's go mode. So one thing you can't do is, unless you're already in Android Auto, you can't go Yeah, so that won't work anyway because Triple J is too weak a signal in the garage for digital audio. That'll work. Well, to wrap things up, folks, this is about a week or so later. After I cut the other video off, everything's working at this point in time, including, I'll just to give you a sneak peek of a bunch of wires and a circuit board, which is the interface between my steering wheel, cruise control, and my cruise control system in the car. So my cruise control system in this car is a Command AP500. This is the keypad for that system. And so I've got this system here in diagnostic mode, which basically means it beeps when I press a button, aside from the on-off button. Now, if I leave that there so you can see it, I can turn it on and off with the cruise control steering buttons as I press it. I can press set and resume and also cancel. Now, what cancel does is I've programmed it in the Arduino to effectively pulse the power on and off. And so what I should be doing is hooking this up to the brake switch or the clutch switch, which is disengagement. I don't really know how to do that exactly yet. I will get there. But right now, programmatically, that does this. So if I'm driving along with the cruise set, let's press the set button. See how it goes sort of orange? It's actually green and red together through a diffuser. If I press the cancel button, you see how it disengages the cruise? So yeah, everything is great. I've got horn, I've got radio buttons, I've got the steering wheel. It's a smaller steering wheel than it is on the stock wheel or the Momo by about 15 millimeters, which actually gives you a slightly higher steering rack ratio, which I really like. The thing I do a lot of 2G driving, and what I don't really like is the initial turn into a corner. To me, the ratio is a bit low, and so I feel like I have to really reef the wheel into the corner before the car is having a steering ratio that I like. I really like the on steering ratio. It's really good. This improves the initial ratio a bit. What I haven't done is a lot of sport driving yet, so I don't really know how it'll affect the once I'm in a turn ratio if I feel it's too sensitive. I don't think it will, but we'll find out. But either way, this has been a very successful project. I hope it's helped. If you need any help from me, just write down in the comments, ask a question, and I'll do everything I can to help you out. Have a good one.